Am I the a-hole for picking my wedding date before my future son-in-law did and not changing it? I, 28 female, am recently engaged to my partner of 5 years, 27 male. We have been planning for this day for a while and we just announced the engagement last week. We were originally just planning for the wedding to be in DEC 2021, but my fiancé's brother is deployed and won't be able to take leave, so we are now planning for May 2022. My fiancé's sister, 38 female, let's call her Megan, has been engaged for about a year but has never actually announced it or even spoken about it with anyone including family. We only know because she wears a ring and occasionally slips and calls her so fiancé. When she learned we were engaged, she acted happy but then started talking horrible things about us to her mom, Susie. Before we selected the date, I asked Megan and her Susie if they had any wedding dates picked or planned so that we don't interfere since they were engaged first, and below are the responses I got. Megan, what are you talking about? Why would I have plans? Do you think I'm getting married? Who said that? Susie, Megan has not told me about the engagement firsthand, so I don't believe there are any plans and I know of nothing, so you should be clear. Based off of these responses we picked a date, a venue, set a deposit, and mailed the scar the dates. Much to Megan dislikes. She called my fiancé screaming at him for picking the weekend of her wedding, that she had planned for that all along and was still trying to get her things in order to place a deposit and announce it. She called me all kinds of names and told him I'm an a-hole and BTCH for ruining her big day. The next day I screenshot her text and sent it to Megan and asked her how she can be mad when I asked her point blank about the dates, and she said I figured you'd pick any other day of the 365 days but not that one. I said I was sorry and that I could try to reschedule and see if our venue will change our date with the deposit. I tried, but the venue won't budge. We would lose the deposit and the next open date that we liked isn't until November 2022, and that's just too long. So we both agreed that we would keep our date since she hasn't spent a single dime on her wedding and she could pick a new day since she didn't disclose it to us when asked. Megan obviously hates this and is threatening actions on us, all different kinds of threats so far. Am I the a-hole for picking my date before Megan and not changing it now that she's upset? I think if I were you I would call up not Megan, but her partner, and say how upset you are by the stressful situation, that you tried your best to avoid conflict and you don't know what else you could have done, and does he have any advice as to how to smooth things over? I'm a total cow, but if she's wearing a ring but refusing to call herself engaged, then I think that she isn't. If you talk to the partner you might blow things up for her, which feels justified to me given what she's currently putting you through. But like I said, I'm a malicious cow. I don't say this to play as an armchair psychologist or anything, but from experience. I have a family member with an untreated cluster B personality disorder. The sort of attention-seeking tantrums you're describing. If this person hasn't sought therapy yet, they need to. This isn't normal behavior and could possibly indicate an underlying undiagnosed mental health issue. The most important rule I learned growing up: you cannot reason with an unreasonable person, so save your energy. Maybe look into the method known as gray rocking for future interactions with this person. NTA. You asked for a date, she didn't give it. Don't let her jealousy ruin your special day. She called your fiancé because she is trying to skew the story to make herself sound like the victim. Have a heart-to-heart with your fiancé to see if any damage control can be done. FSIL sounds like she has mental issues, so I would not be surprised if she tries to escalate things. I would have an honest talk to see what the limit would be. If she crosses that line, do not invite her to the wedding because she may be dramatic and be a negative influence. It sounds like all she really wants is to be the center of attention and she thinks that you are stealing it from her. Massive NTA. How can you be TA for checking with her first and booking something on a date you were led to believe is clear? If she isn't even engaged in the eyes of anyone else, how can she reasonably expect you to do anything other than what you did? I also don't understand what her family has to be split about. Her own mother didn't know she was engaged, so imho absolutely nothing needs to change. You've paid a deposit, she hasn't even secured anything at all. Perhaps because she's quite a bit ahead of you in terms of engagement and in some ways life, what with the age gap, she may be slightly disgruntled, which is understandable but still not right or fair. Perhaps she feels it should have been her first. I don't know, that's pure speculation. I hope she cools off a bit and sees a bit of logic so you can properly look forward to your big day. She always feels it should be her first. Her other brother, 32, got married and she boycotted it and didn't show up until the bride was walking down the aisle. Her father got remarried and she boycotted it because parents should be married again before kids marry once. The brother I spoke of has 2 kids. The first was a boy, which Megan didn't care about because she has a boy also, but the second was a girl and Megan cried for weeks, possibly months, because she wasn't having the first girl. Megan had a second child about 2 years ago. She has non-stop been talking about it for at least 10 years and the child was a boy. She cried the whole pregnancy and a year after because he wasn't a girl and she didn't want another boy. Always has to be first. Sounds like Megan has some issues she needs to resolve before anything else. I would question whether or not she actually had even planned to have a wedding on that day. She could just be trying to get you to postpone it so she can get in first / be glad to know you're not having the wedding exactly as you wanted it. I honestly wouldn't give much more thought and energy to it. It sounds like whatever you do will be wrong, and planning a wedding is stressful at the best of times, so block it out and try to make the most of this exciting event in your life. It was wild. I'm bummed Lucy deleted her post with her edits and all her comments. At least the autosave version of the OG post is there. Almost everyone was reality checking Lucy left and right, and then the real Mary comes in, filling in holes, dropping some truth bombs, all while still being very kind and level-headed about her sister. She sounded like such a lovely person. So everyone starts backing Mary harder, asking her about her wedding, wishing her well, etc. Poor Lucy thought she was going to be validated and got a reality check instead. I hope Mary had a nice wedding and her stepfather got to walk her down the aisle. NTA, you were open and communicative. Q&D tried to include her in your planning. There's obviously more issues with your FSIL engagement that she's hiding. If family members are taking her side, then they are probably being manipulated, because I think she's ta. That being said, as this is your fiancé's sister, this may be the first in a long string of times where she causes family issues. You should have an open and honest talk with your fiancé, and voice any concerns you may have regarding your relationship with his family in light of his sister's actions. Trying to fight back will not be the right approach, but it will be good to discuss in advance the response to any family member decides to call you out based on what the FSIL has said to them. You should also discuss any expectations you may have of your fiancé and how they should handle their family. NTA, you asked if she picked a date and she didn't tell you she did, which means every day of the dang year is open to you. You're not a mind reader. As for her family being on her side, how many of them penciled in her wedding for that unannounced date? If they didn't do that, then they can shut up, since they didn't have a clue either and are just backing her up because she's blood, not because she's right. Very clearly NTA, she hasn't even told anyone she's engaged. Further than that, when asked, she denied being engaged and didn't say anything about a date for it. You don't get to deny, then throw a fit over someone choosing the day you magically wanted. She would have done this over any day, not just the day you actually chose. There's nothing for them to be torn over. She never even announced an engagement, let alone paid a deposit. Keep your date and tell her to suck it.